Hey guys. All right, so we are going to be working today on Illustrator Practice number 2. And I'm so sorry it took me so long to get this to you, but life happens sometimes, but I'm going to do what I promised to do and stick to my commitments and stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. In your Google Classroom, you have the assignment for Illustrator, which you should be familiar with because we already did the Illustrator Practice 1. So you're going to scroll all the way down, and here for Illustrator Practice 2, we're going to go ahead and select that. Go up to this 3 little dots to open more options, and we're going to select Open in Window. Why it makes us do that extra step, I don't know, but it does. Hey Lola, what's up? Next, we're going to go over to Download, and it should start downloading towards the bottom of your screen. Boop, there it is. All right, now keep in mind wherever on earth your download happens. For me, it goes into my downloads folder. For you, it might go to your desktop. So keep that in mind, okay? I can also just click this and drag it onto my desktop so I know like for a fact where it is. Okay, so there we go. All right, let's see. Now, let's close this and let's open up Adobe Illustrator. I'm listening to a guitar riff from the Beatles. The Let It Be remastered 2009, in case you're wondering. Okay, so we're in Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to go to File and Open. Again, that was File, and then I went to Open. And that file is on my desktop, so you'll just go ahead and navigate on your desktop for that file. Oof. Where is it? There it is. Okay, it should look like that. You should have these editable documents. Notice how I am not this time going to File and Place, but this time I'm going to File and Open. The reason I want you to do that is because the file I gave you this time, it's not just a picture, it's an actual Illustrator document that you'll need to open. So you can't just click and drag it into your Illustrator window. It won't work properly if you do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Open. Let it be, let it be. Okay, here we go. In your layers panel, I want you to take a look, and you'll notice that you have multiple layers to work with. If you do not have multiple layers to work with, you didn't open it up right. I'm sorry, but it's true. All right, so here you'll have a guide. I believe these are just the straight up and down lines that I gave you. The reference, these are all your reference pictures, okay? And then here you have your workable layer, okay, which are all the things I gave you on the bottom 3 questions that allow you to grab and change them. So that's why this document is so important, that you open it and not place it so that you can actually still play with these things, okay? You're going to go ahead and click on layer 1 through 11 to do all of these. Okay, to do number 2 through 10. There was a number 1, but I decided like, meh, let's not do that one. So there you go. All right, the very first one is create a heart. So let's talk about our zooming again. If you hit Command for a Mac, Control for a Windows computer, most of you have Windows computers, you hold down Control and you also hold down 0, it'll snap your entire workspace into the center. If you hit Control and minus, it will zoom out. And if you hit Control plus, it will zoom in. Now, something pretty cool, if you have a specific object that you want to zoom in on, select that image first, then hit Control plus, and it'll zoom in specifically to that object you want. Okay, so that's pretty helpful. Another thing is you can hit spacebar and move around, clicking and holding your mouse. It might right click on your mouse if you're using the trackpad. If you have like a mouse, sorry, I almost blinded you guys. All right, if you have a mouse, you can just kind of hold down spacebar and drag. Sorry if that made anybody dizzy. Oop, what did I just do? Okay, so let's go over to number 2. What I'm doing right now, just to zoom in, is I hit P on my keyboard for pen tool. This is not something you have to do, by the way. And I'm just putting a click there. And then I want to Command and plus so that I can move in on this shape, okay? And then I can just do my selection tool, hit delete, and that little pen mark is gone. So that's a quick way to zoom into an object. All right, we're gonna start with a heart. So in order to make a heart, think about the basic parts that make up the shape of a heart, okay? If you were to break it down to kindergarten shapes, what would those kindergarten shapes be? Okay, take a minute and look at it. All right, so more than likely, you're gonna have two kind of ellipses or circles, and then probably a square on the bottom that kind of make it up. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go over to our tools here, select M for rectangle tool. See how M is the hotkey for rectangle tool? And remember, to get this extended menu from here, I'm just right-clicking. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and make a square. Now I can tell it's a square because it gives me that pink line across, or I can hold down my shift key and it will pop to a square, so I don't have to do any guessing. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and move it, and now if I hover over one of the corners, you'll see how my mouse changes. It went from an arrow to a curvy majigger. I don't know what to call that. I'm sure it has an actual name. Maybe I'll find that out later. And you can drag it to whatever angle you need it to be. Again, you can hold down the shift key and it'll pop to a perfect 45-degree angle. Okay, so it'll either go straight, 45, 90, blah, blah, blah. All right, so I'm gonna do that. And then I'm gonna make sure I'm on the selection tool, of course, so I can move and change stuff. If you're having a problem and you can't do any of the things I'm just showing you, it's probably because you're still on the rectangle tool and you needed to go over to your selection tool, okay? So that looks pretty good to me. It looks like I have that whole bottom half. Now I'm gonna go ahead and make the circles. So I'm gonna go back to my shape tool, and this time I'm gonna hit ellipse tool. Hotkey for that one is L. I'm just gonna make an ellipse. Sure, that looks good. I'm gonna hit V on my keyboard for the selection tool because that's its hotkey. I'm just gonna kind of shift this, and maybe I'm gonna skew it a little bit so that it kind of fits that shape just a little better. Yeah, the one thing I'm concerned about is I don't want like an awkward bump here and here because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, if you guys haven't noticed yet. Yeah, that looks pretty decent. I got a little bump up here, but I can fix that. And then I'm just gonna hold down Alt. See how my mouse turns into two little mice now? It turns into two little arrows. I'm gonna click and drag. That tells me that Alt is selected properly, by the way. Let's see. Oops, I think I made like a whole bunch. I did. Whoops. Okay. So I'm just gonna click, hold down Alt, move it over, and I'm actually gonna hold down Shift also so it moves over in a straight line. Lovely. Okay, you can see I have a tiny bit of a bump up there. So I'm gonna grab my rectangle, and for this one, I could scale it down, but I'm actually going to alter just this one anchor point. So to do that, I'm gonna go over to the direct select tool, hotkey is A. I'm going to click on just that anchor that I wanna move, and then I'm gonna click, hold, and drag. So now it's out of the way, okay? I'm gonna go back to V, my hotkey, and then I'm gonna rubber band select. So I'm clicking and holding and dragging. All right, so now all three objects are selected. You can also click, hold down Shift, click, keep holding down Shift, and click. That's another way to get all three. I'm gonna go to Properties, and I'm gonna go down to our good friend Pathfinder because I wanna merge all these shapes together so they're not three shapes anymore, they're just one shape. Boop, yay, pretty. All right, I got a little funkiness going on there. If it really bothers you, you can select that anchor point, and not delete it. You can select that anchor point, grab the handles, kind of smooth it out, but we're not gonna worry about that for this project. Okay, so we went ahead and we made our heart. The next part of this assignment is to add a texture. So let's go ahead and put a color on there. Don't do black. If you do black and you try to put a texture on there, you're not gonna see anything. It'll just look like a black shape. Wow, Lola, thanks for showing us all your booty. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna go with Sure, this like rose color. All right, sorry if you're disappointed I didn't go with orange. I hate orange. What we're gonna do next, now that we have it selected and we have a color on there, is we're gonna go up on our top menu to where it says Effect. And then we're gonna go almost all the way down to where it says Texture. And just pick a random one because you can change them later if you decide you don't like this one. All right, now it takes us to this new window where it's going to give us a little demonstration of what that texture looks like. And you'll see here's the other textures right here. These up here are different kind of photo filters that are not textures, so there's something a little different. But over here, you can control the settings of your texture. So you can play with it a little bit. Each one of these has different settings in here, and it depends on, how it was created. So for this particular one, I can change the crack spacing, the crack depth. See how it looks like a little bit more shallow, and this way it looks a little deeper. And the crack brightness, see how it gets darker. Ooh, I like that. I'm feeling that one. So once you like it, just go ahead and hit OK, and it'll save it. And there you go. La la. That is number 2. So now I'm just going to copy it over, holding down my Alt key. Oops. Notice how I'm still in the direct select tool. I got to go back to my regular selection tool. Okay. See that? Regular. Got to go back over here. Okay. And now let's hold down Alt and drag it over. Here we go. Now we're going to create a drop shadow. See how our example has a little shadow underneath? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put a shadow underneath mine. So again, we're going to go up to the Effect panel, or the top menu, I should say, in the Effect tab. And we're going to go down to Stylize. Now, one of the things that's funky about Stylize is there's 2 stylizes. So you'll see this is the Illustrator Effects section, and then there's a line, and then it's Photoshop Effects, and you'll see there's another Stylize option. All right, the Photoshop Effects only has one option, whereas the Illustrator Effects has quite a few more. It has 6 options. Okay, so in the Illustrator Effects section for Stylize, we're going to hit on Drop Shadow. Okay, now the next thing you want to do is you want to hit the Preview button so you can see what you're doing. Because if you make all these changes, you're not going to see anything until you hit OK. But if you hit Preview, ba-bam, you can see everything. All right, now there's a couple cool ways that you could play with this. There's a drop-down menu that has thousands of different options that you can do when mixed with the options here. We're just going to keep it basic right now. The opacity, this is either how see-through or how not see-through your drop shadow is. The X offset is going to move your drop shadow along the x-axis, okay? So the higher the number you go, it goes towards the right, just like in geometry. And the lower you go, it goes towards the left, okay? So along that positive x-axis and the negative x-axis. Now, y offset is a little different. Y offset, if you imagine the light source, okay, that is creating the shadow upon your object, all right? If you think about that for a minute, it is not moving the shadow along the y-axis going up and down. It's actually moving the light source. So the shadow moves in opposition. All right, so if I go up, that will raise my light source up, therefore my shadow goes down. Okay, and then if I move my light source down, the shadow goes towards up. All right, the blur is how blurred out or defined my shadow is. Okay, and then another cool thing is you can even play with the color. So maybe you don't want a black shadow, maybe I want like a lime green shadow. Right? I think that looks hideous. But anyways, I think you get the idea. And then once you like how it looks, make sure that you hit OK in order to save the settings. All right? You'll notice over here in my appearance panel now, there's a new option. It says FX, and it's when I hover over it, it says choose an effect. And it has a little information marker here telling me that I've got some stuff going on here. So if I click these 3 buttons, you'll see that I get the appearance menu right here, but it's expanded a bit. And this tells me I have craquelure FX on here, so I have an effect that is craquelure, and that is my texture. Here is the effect I put on for my drop shadow, and the opacity is at default. Okay, so if I decide I want to make changes to this, I can click right here where it says drop shadow. It brings up all the settings I just played with, and I can make any adjustments that I feel are necessary here and then hit OK. All right, or if I hate it, I can go ahead and delete it and try again. Now, if I try to put an effect on it while it already has an effect on it, it's going to give me an error message and ask me to completely make a new effect. Okay, so if you just want to edit your effect, that's how you do it. Appearance of panel, more options, and then find the effect that you want to edit, and then click on the underlined word and you can edit your effect. Okay, next up, we're going to create an octagon. Oops, notice how that was selected and it zoomed in on that. Yep. All right, we're going to create an octagon. An octagon is a polygon that has 8 sides. So we're going to go over to our shape tool. We're going to select polygon. And one cool thing about the polygon tool, if you click, hold, and drag, but you don't release, you can change the angle. If you, just like with the star tool, if you use the down arrow on your keyboard, you can get less sides. So it goes all the way from triangle, square, polygon, all the way up to infinity. All right, so right here I have a hexagon with 6 sides. I'm gonna go up 1 for a septagon, 7 sides, right? Yeah, no, check me, let me know if I'm right about that. And finally, 1 more to make 8 sides for an octagon. Okay, you can hold down shift if you want it to be like perfectly straight up and down. I'm just clicking shift and you can see it rotating, and then just release my mouse when I like it, and that's number 4. All right, for number 5, we're going to copy the octagon over. So again, I'm going to hold down Alt on my keyboard, and you see I get those 2 little arrows. That tells me Alt is definitely selected. I don't know about you guys, but I constantly accidentally hit Control, and I don't understand why it doesn't copy it over. Okay, because it's right next to Alt on my keyboard. So what we're going to do now is change the color profile of this. Our color is this pink with this black background. If you want, you can take off the stroke. You don't have to. But anyway, all right, so I have this color, and I'm going to use the color profiles to change it. So I'm going to show you a really complex way to do it that gives you a ton more options, and then I'm going to show you a more basic option just for the CMYK values that we have. All right, so the more advanced option is over here on the left. You'll see how you have the same fill and stroke that you have over here on this side, okay? Notice how it's the same thing. So if I click on fill, making sure it's on top, see how if I click on stroke, it puts that on top, okay? So I want fill on top. Oops, I revealed a secret too early. So if I double click now on the fill, click, click, I get this ridiculous menu that lets me do a whole bunch of different things. And since I'm kind of a control freak, if you haven't noticed, keep your cameras on, I like as many options as I can get at once. So here I can choose any hue, tint, tone, or shade that I want of my color. I can choose any color or chroma within the spectrum. I can do HSB, I can do RGB, or I can do CMYK. Those are 3 different kinds of color modes, okay? CMYK is what we're working with right now. And this right here, this awkward little combination of numbers and letters, this is called a hex code. Every color in digital space has a code that kind of says what it is. And you'll notice as I move my mouse around and click different colors, the hex code changes and all of these values change every single time. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and click back on that color. And right here, I have my CMYK. This stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and I can just type these numbers in. So my cyan needs to be 82. Ooh, look at that, already changed. That color's pretty. And then I'm going to change my magenta to 8, and I'm going to change my yellow to 81, and I'm going to leave my K at 0, hit OK, and that is the color I'm supposed to have. Perfect. All right. The other option is I select my shape, and I can go over here where it says fill, and then you see this little paint palette icon that says color mixer when I hover over it. If I click that, well, there you go. There are my CMYK color values. Okay, so if I know that's all I want to change, and I don't need the bigger menu, then you can just click that one, and you'll just go ahead and type them in. All right, boop, there you go, number 5. All right, next up, I'm just going to copy this one over, and you'll see how the example, we're going to do kind of a lighter in the center, and then it's going to fade out to this original dark color on the outer, okay? So for this one, we're going to assign the Octagon an inner glow. We're going to use a normal mode inner glow with a 60% opacity and a 6-point blur from the center. Okay, so let's zoom in on this guy. And we're going to go again up to Effect. And this time, we're going to go again to Stylize, but this time we're going to choose Inner Glow, which is the third option, or at least it is on my screen. All right, so here are the settings they're talking about. Normal mode, there's mode, and you can see my mode is set to screen. So I want to go to the drop down, and right there, there's normal. All right, opacity, you'll see is the very next option. It should be 60. So I'm just gonna highlight that and type in 60. And my blur, it should be 6 points. Oh, look, I forgot to hit preview. There you go, now I can see what I'm doing. All right, always hit preview. And notice how right now it says center and edge. This one's supposed to be center, but right now edge is selected. So I'm just gonna click on center, boop, and hit OK. And you'll see it looks like the example. Yay! That is number 6. Okay, number 7. I tricked you a little bit with this one. What I want you to do with this one is not just make a rectangle like you're used to, but use just one click and put in very specific dimensions of a rectangle. Okay, so this box is actually not the right size on purpose. So I can see if you did this right, or if you were just like, oh yeah, she just wants me to make a rectangle. Cool, I made a rectangle. No. You don't sound like that, just so we're clear. All right, in one click, okay, you're gonna select the rectangle tool, and you're just gonna do one click, click, and notice how you have measurements. All right, we're gonna make a rectangle that is 120 points by 100 points. And since we're already using point measurements, that's perfect. All right, if you're, for some reason, you accidentally made like inches or millimeters when you set up the document, you can totally just type in 120 space PT and it'll convert it to the right size. All right, now width always goes first. I'm sorry I didn't like specify that this was the width and this was the height, but typically width always goes first. And then you're just gonna hit OK. And here's my box. Notice how I'm still on the rectangle tool. I've got to hit V on my keyboard or go up to the selection tool so that I can move and drag, and you'll see how that was not the same size. All right, that is my way to be able to see if you get it or not. All right, next we are going to match this shape, so this interesting kind of trapezoidal shape that's a little curved, by using the warp tool. And we're going to use it on number 7. So here's number 7. We're going to copy this object over. So I'm going to select it, hold down my Alt key to make a copy, and drag it over. Okay. Now, thing about this is I can't see what I'm doing. So we got to make sure we lower our opacity a little bit so we can see through our object, so we can kind of see what we're working with here. All right, next, with it still selected, I'm going to go up to Effect. And this time, I'm going to go to Warp. okay, because that's the tool it said it wanted me to use. So I'm going to go to warp. You're just going to go with the first option. I tried to make it as easy as possible by picking the first option. Woo, Nelly! And that looks nothing like it. Am I right? So we're going to have to play with some of these settings a little bit. For these settings, I made it so that you could leave these top two alone and play with everything else. If you don't see a change on yours, it's probably because you need to select your preview button. And let's go ahead and play with this. So this is a bend. You'll notice that, ooh, my shape is really bent. And if you look at the top and bottom, it's kind of straight. So I'm thinking it might not have that much of a bend. So I'm going to move it more towards the center, which is like the neutral zone. If you think about like X and Y axis, you know, like your positive X and your negative X, this is like a positive bend. This is neutral territory at 0, and then there's a negative bend, okay? So I'm probably gonna have it closer to 0 because it really doesn't look that bent on the top and bottom. Horizontal, all right? This one, if I move it around, you'll see that it makes the left side smaller than the right side. The right side's much bigger, all right? So it's almost kind of like it's putting more height onto this side of the horizontal figure of the shape? Sure. All right. So this side is bigger, but it honestly looks like to me that this side is a little bigger. So I think I'm going to drag this a little bit to the other side. Yeah, sure. That still looks nothing like the shape. So let's go to vertical and let's see what this one does. Ah, okay. You see how vertical, ooh, that looks like it's upside down. So vertical, it's bigger on the top, smaller on the bottom. So I'm just going to go right about here. Like that looks right, like negative 52. But if I want it to go the other direction, I need to go to like a positive 52. Yeah. And I'm just going to play with it a little bit more so it gets that shape better. That's pretty darn close. It looks like maybe I should change, oopsie, some of these other settings so it fits just a little bit more. Yeah, we're getting closer. How about that bend? Go that way a little bit. And I don't need you to make it perfect. I just need it to kind of look like that shape. So I would say that's really good. All right. Once you have it, go ahead and hit OK. And if you want to, you can even kind of shrink this down so it fits the size a little better and you can skew it a little bit. All right. And that, man, that's really close. So that's pretty awesome. I'm going to go to the opacity. Oh, whoopsie. Yeah, you can do it that way too. And I'm just going to bump that opacity back up. Okay. Number 9. Number 9, we're going to create a stroke that is 15 points thick, and it has a dashed line segment, and the dashes are 12 points thick, and the space in between the dashes is just 2 points. Okay, so it should look like this. Now you can do this 2 ways. You can use your pen tool, click, click, to have a straight line. I held down Shift, by the way, so it made it a straight horizontal line. Or you can also go to your line segment tool, which is underneath the T and a forward slash, I think that is, or is that a backslash? I don't know. All right, that's also the tool for that. So, oh, I lost my mouse. There it is. I can also click and drag, hold down Shift so it makes a straight line. Okay, so you can make it either one of those ways. Next, while I have it selected, I'm going to go up to stroke. You'll see right now I have no fill, no stroke. You might have something. I'm going to click on the box for the fill and make it black or whatever color you feel like you want to make it. And then I'm going to go over here to my stroke weight, and I can either click until it gets to 15, or I can just type the number 15 in here. And there you go. So again, with the other one, you don't need to make 2, by the way. I just want to show you one more time. I'm going to go over here to stroke, and notice I don't even have to pick a color. I can just start clicking a size and it'll default. Okay, so there's 15. All right, cool. So with my nice thick stroke selected, I'm going to click here on the word stroke so I can get that bigger menu, just like we did in Illustrator Practice 1. This is the same menu. Remember how on the last question we changed the cap to a rounded cap? Okay, this is the same box. So I'm just going to go a little further down in this box, and because it says dashed line, I'm going to click this box that says dashed line. All right, you'll notice the dash is already set to 12 points, so that is this black section here that is 12 points thick. All right, I want to change the gap, this empty space here, to a 2-point gap. So I'm going to click right here where it says gap, and I'm just going to put in a 2. All right, and there you go. That's it. That's it for this one. Okay, now notice how this example is the exact same one. It's just a different shape. So I'm going to hold down Alt and move that one over. And then we're going to alter it so it matches this. What we're going to do is adjust the profile width to profile 4. Okay, so again, I'm going to hit on stroke. There's our caps. There's our dashed line. You can even make arrowheads on it. And here's the profile. All right, right now it's set to uniform, so it's equally across. And if I go to this drop-down menu, I have different width profiles. Notice how if I hover over them, they say width profile 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just going to click on number 4 because that's what my question says. Click. And that's it. That's number 10. Okay. Let's go on over to number 11. Now this one, number 11, you know, if you, I'm so sorry. If you miss one tiny step on number 11, it is not going to work. So you got to think about your order of operations, the order everything goes in, okay? Lots of times when we're first learning Illustrator, we do a lot of clicks. Like we click, 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 and we're kind of nervous and we're not exactly sure what to do. Be very purposeful about your clicks, okay? Because in this one, it can be really easily messed up. So what you're going to do is I have given you a petal and this little pink middle section to play with. And you'll see you can't move the flower part. All right. You're going to select that petal. You don't need to rotate it. You don't need to move it. You don't need to do anything with it. It's there just the way you need it. You're going to go over here on your left default bar, and you're going to hit the rotate tool, which hotkey is R if you like using hotkeys, which I do. I'm going to click that button, and now you'll see my mouse has turned into a little sight line. All right, and you'll see, it's very hard to see, but there is a turquoise circle with lines at the top and the sides. And it's hard to see right now because it's also over my little green anchor point, okay? If I click where I want my pivot point to be, okay, think about where you want everything to rotate around. I'm going to put it right in the center of my pivot point. So I'm going to click right here, click, and you'll see there it is. Maybe you can see that easier now, okay? Here, actually, let me put it here just so you can see it. You see that? That little sight line. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click, put it where I want everything to rotate around. Sorry, I keep zooming in and out. And I'm going to hold down my Alt key. I'm not clicking anything else, okay? If I click anything else, since I still have my rotation tool selected, it's going to change my pivot point. So I got to make sure I've clicked there and not anywhere else. I'm going to hold down my Alt key. I'm going to hover over my petal, click, hold, and drag. Don't release yet. Let's get it right where we want it to be, and then release. Now don't click anything else, okay? I'm going to take my finger off of my Alt key. I'm going to put my finger down on Control and my other finger on D. And I'm going to keep holding down Control and repeatedly hit the D key. So Control, D, magic duplication, and then keep holding down Control and keep holding D. Look at her judging me. D, 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 D. And that is number 11. Cool? Alrighty. Next one. Nice thing about a YouTube video is I'm going too fast. You can totally pause me and play me again. All right, for this next one, we are going to make a clipping mask. Oh, I love clipping masks. Graphic designers love clipping masks, so you definitely want to know how to do it. And it's actually incredibly easy. When you're learning it though, it's very complicated for some reason. It took me forever to learn how to do this, so don't beat yourself up if it takes you a long time. I think it took me, man, like a good 3 or 4 months to be like, oh, that's what you do. Okay, so don't beat yourself up. And if this comes super easy to you, man, you had it easier than I did, so I'm happy for you. All right, right here we have text, and we have a picture of the city of London. Okay, kind of cool. You're gonna click on the text, and notice how this little box comes up around the text, and the text is underlined. All right, that is the selection area for this one object, the text object. I want to shift select the picture. Now, very important, I can't click within this box that already holds the text, or it's going to deselect it. See how it's not selected now? Okay, so select that and select the picture, shift, select the picture without deselecting the text. If you shift and select something that's already selected, it'll unselect it. All right, now you'll see I have a box around the picture and my text is still underlined, which tells me the text is highlighted and my picture is highlighted. Perfect. I am going to, there's two options. I can either right click and click Make Clipping Mask, or over here in the quick actions, there's also a Make Clipping Mask option, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and hit Make Clipping Mask, ba-bam. Calm yourself. All right, that's it. That's all you have to do. Okay, and if it didn't work out for you, it's cool. Rewind the video, try it again. It took me 4 months, so I wish you well, and I hope you're way smarter than I was. All right, next, exact same concept. This one is the exact same concept, just instead of text, we're doing a shape, okay? So I'm gonna click the shape. I'm gonna shift click the picture, making sure I didn't accidentally deselect the shape. Make Clipping Mask. And that's it. It was that easy. Why did that take me 4 months? And you know what? If you're still struggling, then thank you. I feel good about that, even though that's kind of mean to say. All right, the last thing, my friends, that you're gonna do is let's make a text box. Let's put your name in here. First name, last name, and then put your class period. I don't know, number 2. Maybe you'll do like second hour, maybe however you want to do it. Okay, as long as I understand what class period you're from. All right, and that sucker's complete. Make sure you go to File and you go to Save. Not Save As just yet. Save. You want to save the document that you have been working on as an Illustrator document first. Then we're going to make a second document of this by going File, Save As. Okay. And don't forget, you need to name it first name, last name. Notice how I already left like most of the name there for you. First name, last name, Illustrator Practice 2. That's it. All you had to do was type that in. Now down here where it says Adobe Illustrator, remember I sent it to you as an Illustrator file, but I want it turned in as a PDF file. So you're going to go down to this drop-down menu and you're going to select PDF. Okay. Once that happens, then you go ahead and hit Save. Make sure that Preserve Illustrator Editing Capabilities is checked. Make sure Embed Page Thumbnails is checked. You can also optimize it for a fast web view if you like. And definitely make sure Create Acrobat Layers from Top Layer is correct. What these top and bottom two do is it allows you to go in and change that PDF file just in case you screwed up. Sorry, we do it. And you didn't save the Illustrator file. So you can't edit the Illustrator file now because you saved over it with the PDF and you didn't save the original AI. All right, that is just your safeguard to make sure you can still edit your project if you mess something else or you forgot it. All right, then you're just gonna hit Save PDF. Okay, next you're gonna go into our Google Classroom assignment. Okay, you're gonna go back to your Illustrator assignment. Obviously my screen doesn't look like yours because I can't turn things in. But you'll go to the assignment, you'll go to your turn in button, you'll attach your files for lesson Illustrator Practice 1 and Illustrator Practice 2. Please, my friends, make sure they are named correctly, okay? You will have points removed if they are not named correctly. Okay, so here's a little thing to remind you. Points will be docked if each prompt is not completed. If you had a really, really hard time with one, try it. Watch the YouTube videos. Rewatch our videos in class together. Finish them, okay? If your project is exactly like someone else's, okay, I want you to play with it and make it a little bit different. Make it your own. Explore some things. If the naming convention is not followed, the naming convention is that first name, last name, underscore Illustrator Practice 1 or Illustrator Practice 2, okay? Also, your naming convention is the format. The format is part of the naming convention. Okay, that format should be a PDF. Does it say it anywhere in here? Does it say PDF? I don't see it. It says, yep. Learn how to export a PDF document. Okay. Now, a couple of people have been having issues where, and I'm not exactly sure why. I think it might be the processing speed of the Dell computers that you have. But some people have been having the problem where they turn in the document to me and the little picture example is missing some of their work. What the heck? If that's the case, two things that you can do for me. Either, number one, you can take a screenshot of your work finished, attach that instead of your PDF, name it correctly, and just write me a little private note that says, you know, that you had that problem, okay? Or you can send me the AI document and again, give me a note that that's why it's an AI and not a PDF like it's supposed to be, okay? All right, so that's it. You'll just go ahead and turn that in by tomorrow before the clock strikes midnight. I hope that this was helpful for you guys. I'm sorry it took me so long. But yeah, here it is, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.